A growing problem happening right now.
I had been hearing about the just absolute epidemic of car thefts.
That can happen when you least expect it.
I realized then that I was a victim myself.
The group now stepping up to help victims of car theft cope and connect with resources.
There are avenues you can go through to get help.
Plus, homeowners still waiting to rebuild after the Marshall fire, now running out of time to cover their expenses.
Even just building, if we're talking a single home, that's going to take often more than a year. So imagine how long it's going to take to rebuild entire community.
We're looking closer at the fine print and the path forward for families seeking extensions.
And from Colorado with love, we have an update on the group traveling to Florida to help survivors of Hurricane Ian. First tonight, fighting back against auto theft.
Colorado leads the nation, and a newer study from Common Sense Institute reports 4 Colorado cities, Denver, Aurora, Westminster, and Pueblo, rank in the top 10 for vehicles stolen.
But as Denver 7 CB Cotton reports, community members now are trying to gather resources to reverse this trend.
These days, it seems any car is vulnerable, but we know certain Hyundai and Kia models are stolen most often in Colorado. And that's according to a statewide task force who's been tracking this issue. Honestly, people are sick of it and fed up. Tonight, a group of people met up in Aurora to talk about auto theft. Tonight was about taking questions and concerns directly to elected leaders and Aurora police. One of the organizers explained why this is so important to her.
I met a woman that her only means of transportation was stolen. She didn't even have a ride to get to the impound lot to pick her car up. I took her to the impound lot. Her car was so damaged, she just relinquished her car at the impound.
A lot of people who turned out wanted to know what Aurora police are doing about this matter. Well, Division Chief Jad Lanigan spoke pretty candidly. He says it's no secret that Aurora police is short officers right now. Now get this, auto theft in Aurora has actually dropped by about 14% from early September to early October. I asked Lanigan about that, and he says he feels it's due to some targeted efforts his officers are taking. One woman we spoke with, she's really hoping these efforts work because of what happened to her. Listen to what she lost when her Hyundai Sonata was stolen.
I had an urn with his ashes in it. My father's ashes were never recovered. I got my car back, but I didn't get my father back.
To get another idea of the scope of auto theft here in the state, Aurora police say since early June, they've handed out over 1,100 steering wheel locks. They actually hope to get more and give them out to community members, but right now they're on back order. CB Cotton, Denver 7.
All right, so let's take a look at the work being done to crack down on auto theft. This summer, Aurora was working on a resolution and ordinance that would create a mandatory minimum sentence of 60 days for those arrested for car theft. It would also impose a 10-day mandatory minimum sentence for those who fail to appear in court. On the state level, I found Governor Polis wrote a letter to the Colorado Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice calling for increased penalties for those convicted of auto theft at the state level. The commission makes recommendations which the legislature can choose to address but is not required to.
And I spoke with Carol Walker from the Rocky Mountain Insurance Information, and given this notoriety for being the #1 state in the nation for auto theft, she says we all need to be doing everything we can to protect ourselves from car thieves.
From where we park our cars, to locking our vehicles, hiding valuables from plain sight. These are all things that don't sound important, but the thieves tell us that they're targeting the easy steal, either the vehicle that's so easy to steal or your car because you've made it an easy steal by not taking just some common sense steps.
And overall, the top 3 vehicles most likely to be stolen in Colorado, according to the National Insurance Crime Bureau, are the 2004 Ford pickup. Second is the 2005 Chevy pickup, followed by the 2000 Honda Civic. We have new body cam footage out of Platteville raising more alarming questions tonight. Now, we told you about a train that plowed into a Platteville police car that was parked on train tracks. A woman in handcuffs was in the back seat of that cruiser. This happened on US 85 and County Road 36 3 weeks ago. Well, following the crash that night, footage shows Platteville Police Sergeant Pablo Vasquez claiming he had no idea his squad car was on the tracks and had no idea another officer put 20-year-old Yareni Rios Gonzalez in his back seat.
I didn't realize how close I was to the tracks, and it took the rear end of my car and it just spun it. I didn't think the Lupton officer was going to put her in my car. I just didn't, and she did. She put her in my car.
Body cam also shows an officer speaking to the train engineer, so take a listen.
Come around that curve, it looks deceiving. It thought you were on the side of the road there. Yeah, and then as we get closer in, when our headlights hit the vehicle, it's like, man, that's too late. It's too late.
Rios Gonzalez survived the crash with multiple injuries, including 9 broken bones.
2 men under arrest after a dangerous and costly crash in downtown Denver last night. The charges include DUI, and the 2 cars that collided were Lamborghini Huracans. The price of those started about $240,000. This happened near Colfax and Spear just after the Broncos game. One of the drivers was taken to the hospital, just minor injuries. Now, police say witnesses told them both drivers were revving their engines at a stoplight and then, quote, accelerated as fast as possible right before this crash happened. And one of these exotic supercars caught fire after the crash, which was right in front of the Denver Fire Station number 1.
The Colorado Secretary of State's office is blaming a data error after 30,000 mailers with information about the voter registration process were sent out to people who are not eligible to vote. A spokesperson tells Denver 7 the mailers went to people with out-of-state driver's licenses. The department plans to send additional letters to those who were notified, letting them know that only those meeting requirements can register.
The Uvalde, Texas school district today suspended its entire school police force less than 5 months after the massacre at Robb Elementary that left 19 students and 2 teachers dead. And this comes amid continuing protests from the community over the slow and confounding police response to the elementary school shooting. The district said it's requested now Texas state troopers be stationed on campuses and extracurricular activities during this transition.
We're approaching 1 year since the Marshall Fire, and hundreds of families, they're still in the process of getting permits to rebuild. Meanwhile, their living expenses covered by insurance may be on the verge of expiring.
Denver 7's Jessica Porter got some tips on what those families should do now and why every homeowner should really be looking at their insurance coverage.
Well, Shannon, and we have covered extensively the slow rebuilding process for the Marshall Fire. And as we approach the 1-year anniversary, the Colorado Division of Insurance tells me those impacted by the fire should now file a claim for an extension for additional living expenses. And that money provided by insurance covers things like rent, food, and clothing. The Colorado Division of Insurance says those impacted should first check their policies to determine if they have 1 or 2 years of living expenses coverage. Second, if you have a rebuilding contract in place, contact the insurance company and ask for an extension based on your estimated date of completion. And lastly, you can also request an extension if you believe the insurance company has delayed your claim.
Say you've had that rebuilding contract to them and it's been sitting with them for a few months and they haven't done anything. That delay is something that you can ask for, whatever the delayed period was for that extension.
Platteville says that the Marshall Fire was a wake-up call for all homeowners, and he encourages people to keep insurance policies in a place they can access after a disaster and shop around for the best coverage.
It is absolutely your right to ask questions and to make inquiries to your agent, to your insurance company, and say, hey, what does this mean? How much am I covered for? What are the numbers in here?
And Platteville says his team is working through many insurance complaints from those impacted by the Marshall Fire. If your insurance company is denying an extension, you can file a complaint with the Colorado Division of Insurance. And I have included their contact information in this story on Denver7.com. Live in the studio, Jessica Porter, Denver 7.
And going in depth now, Boulder County has launched a new website to help residents get reimbursed for debris removal costs. People participating in the private property debris removal program can find step-by-step instructions and a timeline for that process on bouldercounty.gov/debris insurance. You can also register for a virtual town hall on October 19th to learn more.
And support is also increasing for Marshall Fire victims for mental health care access. Now, we've compiled a few resources here, and counselors will be available in Louisville and Superior through November 29th. Free counseling sessions also will be available for students and employees at the Boulder Valley School District, and businesses are giving out crisis cards with information on where to get mental health support 24/7.
Governor Polis has ordered state flags to be lowered half-staff this Sunday in honor of the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service. The day coincides with Fire Prevention Day, which honors the thousands of firefighters lost during tragedies.
It has been 9 days now since Hurricane Ian made landfall in Florida, and since then, a local group has been collecting supplies for survivors. Earlier this week, we introduced you to Big Tony, who helped organize this supply drive in Arvada. And when we spoke last, his group had sent one truck to Florida, and they're working on a second. And tonight, we are very happy to report that second truck made it to Florida today. The group tells us they have collected more than $200,000 worth of supplies. Denver 7 Gives is partnering with the Scripps Howard Fund for hurricane relief, and you can make a donation by texting the word STORM to 50155, or if you have your phone handy, just scan that QR code or visit denver7.com/hurricane relief.
And speaking of donations, we want to thank everyone who donated to our If You Give a Child a Book campaign, because with your help, the Scripps Howard Fund raised $1 million this year, enough to provide 200,000 books for kids across the country. And this brings the total number of books distributed since 2016 to more than 1 million.
This is an infrastructure improvement that will last for the next century.
If you build it, they will bike.
South Broadway businesses weigh in on a new era for the area.
It is the hope of many businesses that this bike lane will ultimately bring more foot traffic and more individuals to Broadway.
Warmer temperatures as we get through the weekend. I'll have your forecast coming up.